You use that for subsistence. You had people who wanted to come and hunt on your land, and they paid you for those elk permits. That's a loss if you can't sell those elk permits anymore. If you used to gather firewood, that's a loss. If you used to cut down your trees and sell them for lumber, that's a loss. You know, anything that was of value that got burnt down is a loss. And we want to count all of it. So, businesses, you know, damage, and the other thing that I want to point out here is that loss of a home, it doesn't need to be your primary home. It could be your cabin, right? Because a lot of people might have homes, you know, they're living and working in Vegas or in Taos or in, you know, Santa Fe, and they might be living there, but then they have their home from the familia, right? Their ancestral home, or just a cabin that they did. Maybe they have a place at Pandaray, or they have a cabin in their own land. That's covered too. That's an example of what FEMA doesn't cover. FEMA only helps people out, you know, with their primary resistance, but that's not there. So, you know, we needed financial. If you lost, you know, paychecks because the business you worked for had to close, that's a loss. If you had to relocate, that's a loss. If you had to pay somebody to come in and remove the debris, that's a loss. Insurance premiums. You know, some people are now, they're having to pay more for their insurance. That is something we can compensate you. Flood insurance. You know, before you weren't in a flood zone, it was fine because the forest captured everything, but now everything is flooding. So if you have to pay for flood insurance now, you'll get compensated for that. And then this next one is, and if you had insurance, not everybody had insurance, but some people did have insurance, and you had to pay a deductible, that's included. So you can see we're trying to cover anytime you had to reach into your pocket to pay for something, anytime that something is gone and how do I recover it. You had stuff, you had some beautiful pictures, some beautiful, you know, maybe this is my mom's. If I lost this in a fire, this would be covered. Now, I can't put a value on how much it means to me that my mom wore this around her neck, but I could put a value on what this would be worth, an antique turquoise necklace. So then, you know what, you're following me? So we can't put a value on the pain it would cost me to lose this, but we can put a value on what it would cost to replace it. Okay? Mitigation measures, I really want to talk about this because we know that those of you who have a lot of land and you have those forests and you have that go up against you, and I've been to some of them, and you're trying to protect from flooding, you're building dams, you're felling the logs so that they can stop the fires, and you say, well, I really wish I could do a lot more, but I don't have the money to do it. The way I want them to write the regulations, and this is how the regulations were written for Los Alamos, you can say, here's my plan to do mitigation measures, pay me to do it now. This is real important because we need that work done now before the next flooding starts, right? And so, so that you could get paid for that. That's something you can get paid for in advance. Now you have to actually do the mitigation, because if you don't do it, then you have to pay the money back. But like if you have a plan, it's like, I know I can do this work to protect my land, to protect from future flooding. We can do this, and then you can get paid in advance for that, which is real important, I think. So next, let's go to the next page. So I know a lot of you are frustrated with how you've been trying to get help from FEMA. Part of it is, it's not their fault. It's not FEMA's fault. It's the way the act is written. It's called the Stafford Act. And the Stafford Act it's meant to just come and help everybody out. It's meant to help people when there are disasters. Here, let me help you out and pull you up, but not replace everything. So like under the Stafford Act, if your home burnt down, or right now in Florida, the hurricane took it away, you'd only get, is it $37,900 for that house? Well, that's not what the house will cost to repay, right? Right? Under normal FEMA, let's call it normal FEMA, you don't get covered for business losses. You don't, there's just limited assistance that's available and only covers the most basic primary housing need. It's meant to, help stop you from sliding off the cliff, give you a little help. What the Hermit's Peak claim is, the Hermit's Peak office, the Hermit's Peak claims, it's a new program. Like I said earlier, it covers secondary residences, barns, fencing, roads, trees, cattle, horses, whatever you lost, it's going to cover that. It's going to cover people had those freezers, and in those freezers you had meat, right? I know those. I have a big standard freezer too. You had bigger freezers, right? And in those freezers, we always had, when I was growing up, we had the meat from the cow that was butchered. We had the meat from the elk and the deer that were butchered. Oh, you lost all of that.
Chile.
The chile. Exactly. The tamales, by the way, too. Tamales are priceless, right? That you made yourself. The chile.
The choke cherries.
The choke cherries. All those things that were lost, they have a value and you will get paid for them. So that's why I'm going to have what you need to be doing is sit down and start making that long, long list of everything. If your house burnt down, make that long list of everything. If your barn burnt down, if your tractor's not burned, make that list. So did we cover everything on the other side? Financial and business loss. The other thing is it provides, the word here is compensatory. What compensatory means is it will pay you to replace something, right? What would it cost to replace it? And this is for actual damages. So we took out, before we were saying, it'll make you whole, it's going to never make us whole. We are never going to be made whole again because what was beautiful was destroyed, right? But it will pay you for the stuff that was lost, not the heartbreak. But what we want is by being able to rebuild, that we rebuild and we keep our community strong, that we rebuild, we rise from the ashes. And that's why it was so important. I wanted to make sure we could pay you for what we lost so that you could rebuild your homes and stay in this community that needs you so much. Okay, so we know it's hard. So the other thing that's important, and this is one of those that the acequias and the ranchers kept raising with me. It's like, okay, we got federal cost share so that, FEMA would pay 100% of what the people were losing under FEMA things. But there was all these USDA programs that had a cost share. You had to come up with 25% or 10%. Who has 25% when they've destroyed everything? So we wrote in the bill, because of you guys telling us this, it's really important. We wrote this because you told us we were having a problem with USDA, that it's now 100% covered. So FEMA permanent work, the USDA's Emergency Forest Restoration Program, and there's a lot of other programs. We didn't write them all down. I know, Paula, you're looking at this list and you're saying it doesn't cover the FSA, it doesn't cover these other things. These are just examples. The way the bill is written, it says 100% of all USDA programs that will be used to mitigate or cover the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. So if you lost your alfalfa, right? And now you need alfalfa, you need to buy alfalfa, and USDA said, oh, we'll help you with that, but you have to pay 25%. Now it's like, no. The USDA will pay 100% to help you with the alfalfa. And if you already bought it, then that's a claim you bring to us and say, I had to pay for my alfalfa when it should have been paid for. You keep all your receipts. Keep all your receipts. So that's a really important thing that came out. So you like that? Yay! So what's the next page? So we wanted to sort of give a timeline of when everything is happening. So we introduced the bill on May 11th because we had to write it, we had to go, when you write a bill, you have to go back and forth with the agencies and get technical assistance. We wanted to know what had happened in the Cerro Grande fire for Los Alamos, what were lessons learned. And we kept coming up with new issues that we wanted to address. And I was just going to throw my thing there, and she was so nice she took it and now we're so on your handouts we are on page 9. Page 9. There we go. On page 9. So we got the bills introduced pretty darn quickly, and then
handouts.
On September 20th, we said that's when we paid them. Yep, you can pass them around there. Yeah. You can write on these, take them home. If you want more copies, they're going to be on you can go to my website. My website takes a long time, but there's a link to them if you go to my social. What's it called? My social media, my Facebook or my Instagram or my Twitter. You can tell I write the stuff that goes in there, but I don't know how to get there. I'm not younger than the staff. My staff's younger than I am. So the next date I have on there is November 14th. So we passed the bill, right? We passed the bill and signed into law. But before an agency can actually start handing out the money and doing that, they need to figure out the process, right? And those are called regulations. And every agency has their regulations to how do they do things, how do they process a claim, what are some of the rules, because you can't write all that in the bill. That happens in regulations. Normally, regulations can take 1 year, 2 years to get done. We don't have 1 year or 2 years. So in the bill, we told them, you need to do this. There's a seat here if we can have maybe one of our more elderly or somebody who might need a seat. There's a seat in the front here. See that again? We're all elderly. One of the ones to come. Somebody should take it. It's a seat available. Are you good there with your kids? Because there's space here for them to go on. Okay, come on. Somebody has to come down and take this. Okay, it's done. Oh, there we are. So we said we can't take 2 years. No podemos. We can't take 2 years. Do you mind giving that seat up to this man here with the name? Here's another seat here over here if anybody else needed one who needs assistance. Oh, come on. Okay. You can take the seat better. Okay. And so we said you need to do them in 45 days. So from the day we passed the bill. So 45 days is November 14th. So that's coming up fast. And part of what we're doing today is we told FEMA, we want you to listen to some of the unique things that we have in New Mexico and Mora and San Miguel and Colfax, so that when you write those regulations, you remember this is how it has to go, right? So when you write those regulations, you write in those navigator things. So when you write those regulations, you guys can tell them, no, like we have all this forest land that needs to be covered. How are you gonna think about valuing forest? How are you gonna think about valuing elk that we earned our money from the elk permits and the hunting? How are you gonna think about that, right? When you write those regulations. So that's why the issues that you bring today, they're going to be taking notes on, they're going to be typing, they have a computer somewhere, and those notes are going to go to them as they write those regulations. Then the next big important date, so they'll write the regulations, then the next big important date is once the regulations are final, like let's say, because they'll write the final regulations, then they'll put them out for people to comment on, and then they'll become final, hopefully still within, maybe November, December. After those regulations are final, you will have 2 years to file the claim, 2 years. So that'll be sometime in 2024. So you'll still be able to get paid 2024. So so I just put the timeline in different ways, like, oh, there we go, there we go, there we go. Deadline to file claims sometime in the fall of 2024. So then next is what should you do in the meantime? So before November 14th, share your stories with FEMA and us at meetings and online so regulations can cover unique aspects. I'm going to be asking, are you from, who are you?
Me?
Yeah.
My name is Conrad Super. My family and I have 228 acres of West.
Okay, and there was somebody from Legal Aid at the one we had in Las Vegas. Is there somebody from Legal Aid here? No. But I'm going to ask people like Legal Aid, people who are working with people, to look at those regulations and submit comments. I'm going to be asking the Acequia Association to submit comments looking at those regulations. We will they will be available to you to say, well, that doesn't make sense, right? We want people to give input into the regulations. So, so that's one of the things. Compile information about your property or financial losses, right? And if your house burnt down, there was probably a lot of information in that house, right? You might have had the deeds and receipts. They burned down with that house. We know that. We know that you're not going to be able to have documentation of everything because it might have burnt down with the house. We know, and we are telling FEMA that you might not have, you know, a lot of information, that there might be issues with title, there might be issues with, you know, because you inherited it from your grandma and, you know, and things were unique and your cousin took this and you took that. So we know that there is going to be unique circumstances that come out of the unique nature of who we are in northern New Mexico. And so we're going to try to work through those things, right? And that's why there's going to be a way of where if you don't have the virtual thing, this is an alternative document you can come up with. There's going to be things like that. That's why we want them to have that. But in the meantime, see what you do have. You know, if you have any receipts, if you have any bank statements, if you can have your bank go back and say, well, I didn't save that, but can you give me my bank accounts from here or there, right? And one of the things that's interesting is, let's say you had a house that was a 1,000 square foot house, and just for easy numbers, 1,000 square foot house, a 2,000 square foot house, because we kept having babies and adding on like we all do, right? The house is just, that's what I have. I started with 900, I ended up with 2,400 because I kept adding rooms for the babies, right? That's what we do in northern New Mexico. We're going to look at now, how much did it cost you to build that house? We're going to look at what would it cost you to replace it today? Right? That's an important thing to remember. What would it cost to replace it today? So if it was a mobile home, what would it cost to replace a mobile home today? If it was an adobe home, what would it cost to replace an adobe home today? What would it cost to, you know, that's the kind of thing. It's like what kind of house was it? What would it cost to rebuild it today? So you don't need to say, well, I don't have the receipts of what my contract, pay my contract, no. You need to know what it was, so kind of knowing what it looked like. That's not going to be a great thing. Google Maps might help, right? Because Google Maps are old and you can go down and capture it. So you might want to go on to Google, Maps, you know, and see if you can zoom down on it and then take a picture because that'll have the house. There'll be different ways, just, you know, and we'll try to start thinking of ways to help. Identify those, and that's what those navigators are going to be about. Those, the ones on your side, right? That's what they're going to be help you thinking through this. They'll put up information. They'll be trying to help, you know, get information out to people. There'll be public meetings. There'll be help sessions. We want them to do a lot of that, and they have money to do that, and they know that if they don't do that, they're going to have to answer to me, to Senator Ben Ray Lujan, to Martin Heinrich, to, you know, they're going to have to answer to us. And we're going to be mad because there's something called congressional intent, and it was our intent that they help. So we're going to be mad. And we might not get them to change their mind, but I will get mad at them. So, because I'm not their boss, as their, we're not the boss of me. I'm not their boss, but I'm somebody who can make a lot of noise. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, work with Hermit's Peak navigators, or if you choose to use an attorney with them. And then make sure you get this done within 2 years. And we will be, don't worry, we will be advertising it a lot, because we don't want anybody to miss those 2 years. And then the other thing that's important is under the, there is a design, we only got $2,500,000,000 right now. We think the losses are much higher than that, maybe twice as much, right? Right, there was a lot lost. We don't really know, because nobody's ever done this before. Nowhere in the country have we had an incident where the United States government is saying, we are sorry, we're going to pay you for your losses when we're dealing with things like ranches and mountaintops and mountains, entire mountains, right? There's never been that before. Because the Cerro Grande was mostly just people's homes. It wasn't people's ranches and forests, because all the forests over there are U.S. forests, right? So it's never been done before. So we have an idea that it might be about $5.4 billion, but it might be more. So one of the things we want to do is we want to make this $2.5 billion go as far as possible. So, and if you have an insurance, if you are covered by insurance, you are required to have your insurance paid to file that claim. But if the insurance company didn't cover it fully, then you could claim that loss. But go after the insurance company. Somebody said walking in that the insurance company in Vegas, they only gave them $3,000 for what was in the house. Are you kidding? $3,000? That doesn't even get you all the things that you need that, you plug into the wall, right? Refrigerators, TVs, freezers, the freezers you all have, right? So that's an example of where you're going to come and show, no, my losses were bigger, but my insurance didn't cover it as much. So you're going to be able to come and request that, but you have to apply, you have to go to your insurance and have them try to pay, right? If your car was covered by insurance, and that's something, you go and get it covered, right? That does two things. One, you're required to do that, but it's also saved so that $2.5 billion can go further, right? So, like with the USDA programs, we want to use the USDA programs so that they can get paid for, so the $2.5 billion goes further for all of your neighbors. So think about it that way. And the other thing is those monies are available now. The USDA money is available now. The FEMA money is available now. So did we cover everything on the last one?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, no, we didn't cover the last one. It's so hard to ask you to do this. It's so hard to ask you to be patient. You've gone through so much. You've lost so much. We wish that we could just say, come, sign in like you've been signing in. Aquí estás. No governmental program looks like that. No insurance program looks like that. And so it's going to take time. And so we're at, I know you're going to have to be patient, and I know that's going to be so awful. But also be persistent. Keep coming at them. Identify. Let the Hermit's Peak office know when something's not going right. When something's not going right, let our office know. I don't run the office. I'm not, as I said, I'm not the Teresa Leger Fernández, because I'm not the boss of them. But I want to know when things are stuck. I don't run the county office, I don't run the state office, I don't run the federal office, but if things get stuck, you can come and let us know, and we can call them and bug them on your behalf. Okay? So that's the be persistent. And then on the next page, so this, I wanted you, how to file. So this is important. There's going to be more detail about this later, but for now, this is just a big picture. Remember, this is our first meeting. We just passed this on the 30th. It just became law on the 30th. So once regulations are filed, then there's going to be a notice of loss form. That's the form that you'll eventually fill out. So you're gonna wanna look at that. And then we're gonna want them, there will be a time when they'll have their navigators, they have to hire people. We'll get there in a while, but if you know of anybody who's looking for a job that can help with this process, they're gonna have to be hiring people. So you're gonna meet with the Hermit's Peak navigators to develop a strategy. That's literally in the regulations, in the Cerro Grande regulations. It's meet to develop a strategy, you know? So I like that, because that means they know that they're gonna be helping you think through, how do you get these documents, what's missing, what's not there? And how will you prove your claim? And they're gonna be accepting alternative proofs. Sometimes it might be an affidavit, but it's gonna be an affidavit of perjury, so make sure you don't lie. But a lot of these things are gonna probably be by affidavits, aren't they? Okay. And then once it's all final, you'll do all of that, then you'll file a notice of loss. But we're gonna ask them, and this is contemplated, to put in the regulations that you can get partial payments for your loss. So that if you have a good documentation that you lost a car, a tractor, certain things that are easily valued, you lost your income, you can easily show that you didn't get paid for these. So you can put in a partial claim so you can get paid for those right away, right? While you're still developing the other ones. And that's something that you think can be done, right? And you've done that kind of thing before.
Yes.
Okay. So that way you can start getting some money right away, even while you're still, so you're gonna have maybe, your proof of claim might have A, B, and C. And you put in A right away, you develop B and C, right? So that way you can get some money in right away, because it's tough right now, we know. And then after gathering that loss, then there's going to be a separate claims administrator who will actually make that decision. They'll get the information, get it, okay, the claim is awarded, here's your check. If you do not like what that decision is, there will be where you can appeal it you can appeal it. So that decision isn't final, it can get appealed. And therefore you can go back and show I did do all this. So some of the things that we've asked the Hermit's Peak office to do is make the process as streamlined and easy as possible. You know, because it's like an insurance claim, it's not going to be, you know, it's going to have things you have to do, but as possible. And that's actually, and as fast as possible, in the language of the legislation we wrote, expeditiously as possible, to pay the claims expeditiously as possible. And I don't know why we have to say expeditiously, it just means fast. Pay it as fast as possible. We want them to hire navigators, claims assistants, whatever they want to call them, who are going to be able to help people file those claims. We want them to hire experts in valuation so that they can actually talk to the people about, okay, if you lost 5 acres of woodlands and you used it for vigas, for timber, for what it was, this is what it would be worth. And remember, they're going to pay you for what you lost, and they're going to look at it over time, right? And so they're not looking at what did you lose today, it's like what was that loss over time? Because that forest was going to take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to go back. How long will it take before it grows back where you can go and collect the wood for, right? So, and then that's going to be a calculation that needs to be made. And so we want them to hire and make available to you, not for the claims administrator, for your purpose on your side, the expert that can talk about value and can give you advice, and you can go and talk to them about your thing. We're asking them to do that. That's another thing you can do. We keep that turn on, and I hope he always says yes. Okay. This is going to be fun. Should we do another one? See if we get another yes. We want them to have permanent offices in Las Vegas. One in Las Vegas. They're going to have an office in Santa Fe, which is all right. But we want them, that's not where things burn. They burnt in Vegas, and they burnt in Mora. We want them to have a permanent office in Vegas, a permanent office in Mora. But then they told us that they have these mobile offices which are gonna have their satellite, so they don't need to worry about, you know, no internet or broadband, where they'll drive to Holman, they'll drive to, name it, a community where you want them to go there, and so that people can come there that day. So every Monday, they will be at Holman, taking applications, answering questions, coming out to Holman. Then maybe they're gonna be in Mineral Hill, outside of Vegas. So they'll have also mobile offices, mobile things that literally are offices that have everything inside them, right? Yeah. Another yes? Okay, ask a question, maybe we'll get another yes. Then the other issue is we want them to hire New Mexicans, nuevos mexicanos que entienden lo que necesitamos, que entienden español, que hablan español. And they are going to be, I don't know, when are you going to start posting, you think, for positions?
I don't have a specific date on that yet. I am talking with the director of the claims office. She's very interested in local, we have to have local involvement in order to get this right.
Yeah.
But I don't have a date certain on when we'll be advertising those jobs,
Yeah.
those positions.
And this is where the patients, right? It wasn't until September 30th that they made available $2.5 billion. This office did not exist until September 30th. And they have to figure out how to handle all these claims and get maybe 5.4 billion if we can get everything we need. So that's why you can see how big their job is, right? Think of anything that has to go from zero. They don't have, this office did not exist, this program did not exist until September 30th. So they're running around. The good news is they've already identified the person who is going to be in charge of it, and I forgot her name. Her name is
Angela Gladwell.
Angela Gladwell. And Angela Gladwell is one of 100 of the most senior executives, career people over at FEMA, and she's going to come and be in charge of this. She is going to be permanently based in New Mexico. She'll probably have to commute or something, but she's in charge of it, and her job is not to think about what FEMA should do. It's how do we get the HERMIT'S peak office running? How do we get these claims paid? So those are, I think, did I go through all of mine?
A negative decision can be appealed.
Negative decisions can be appealed, and they will be appealed. Oh, another couple of things. They can be appealed, and there is an appeal process. There's an arbitration process, and there's a district of New Mexico court process. You can choose one or the other. That was in the permit, the Cerro Grande regulations, and that's probably going to be the same here.
And I think I read in at least the summary of the bill that's now law that you have 60 days after offer settlement in order to file a civil.
Yeah, that will be a quick, so that, I just didn't do that because that's so far over there, but yeah, there'll be a quick, you get it, you don't like it, in 60 days you have to file your notice of appeal.
But when does that date start? Say, if we're getting a little payout along the way, say,
Well, that's
we
an
get some money to
interesting-
fix our fence,
sorry.
and then a year
I think
later,